After studying this module, you will be able to know about the concept of leadership, identify the various theories of leadership, learn about styles of leadership, and evaluate the importance of modern leadership theories. Effective leadership is one of the most essential and intriguing part of modern organizations. Hersey and Blanchard define leadership as the process which influences group activities towards accomplishment of organizational goals in situational setting. The guidance of subordinates through non-authoritative methods in conjunction with formal structure can be termed as leadership. Effective leadership makes work enriching, ensures unabated contribution by subordinate levels, leads to effective and efficient utilization of resources, leads to better coordination, cooperation and communication within the organization. The various theories of leadership can be subdivided into three categories. Number 1, the trait theories. Number 2, the behavioral theories. And number 3, the contingency theories. We shall discuss all these theories one by one in brief. Number 1, the trait theory. Trait theories make a distinction between the leaders and non-leaders. All the great leaders who had been instrumental in shaping their nation and organization displayed certain traits which were distinct from that of the others. Leaders such as Mahatma Gandhi, Margaret Thatcher, Nelson Mandela, Virgin Group CEO Richard Branson, Apple co-founder Steve Jobs, Narayan Murthy of Infosys are distinguished leaders who were visionary and changed the way the world looked around them. The basic point of deliberation in trait theory is the distinguishing attributes of the leaders when compared with that of non-leaders. A significant breakthrough for trait theory researchers came with the advent of Big Five personality framework. The Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, commonly known as MBTI, the Big Five personality traits include: number 1, extroversion; number 2, agreeableness; number 3, conscientiousness; number 4, emotional stability; and lastly number 5, openness to experience. Extroversion is considered to be the most important trait of a leader. However, the effectiveness of a leader may not be assessed based on how extrovert the leader is, and it may assess the emergence of leader among the group. Conscientiousness and openness to experience could be linked positively with the leadership. However, agreeableness and emotional stability weren't very strongly related to leadership. More contemporary studies consider emotional intelligence, commonly known as EI, to be strongly related to effective leadership. Therefore, EI can be regarded as an essential trait of a leader. Trait theories can be regarded as instrumental in predicting the emergence of a leader. However, how effective a leader would be in a different genre altogether, and trait theories may not predict the effectiveness of a leader. Now we will learn the behavioral theories. In the behavioral theory, particular set of behaviors are gauged, and this helps in making a distinction between a leader and a non-leader. Trait theories could provide a basis or a parameter through which a leader could be identified and selected. However, with the help of behavioral theories, the individuals could be trained to become a leader. This would result in augmented supply of leaders, since now the individuals could be converted into effective leaders. Three varied behavioral theories of leadership have been conceptualized. Number 1, Ohio State Studies. These researchers in Ohio State University initiated research on behavioral aspect of a leader in the late 1940s. The researchers at Ohio University were looking for those dimensions of leadership behavior which were independent. Having assessed numerous and such dimensions, they finally zeroed in on two dimensions. A. Initiating structure refers to the leadership style in which the leader pre-assigns the structure of work to the group members. A leader who is characterized as having high initiating structure would assign particular work roles to his or her subordinate and would also define the standard of work performance to be adhered to by subordinates. B. Consideration refers to the concern shown by leader towards the subordinates. The concern could be about the subordinates' well-being, status, satisfaction and contentment. Those leaders who have high consideration will show greater concern for subordinates. Concern can be with regards to comfort, well-being, status, work satisfaction, etc. of the subordinates. Later reviews of 1990s pointed out that these two-factor conceptualization added little knowledge to the concept of effective leadership. However, it was added later on that concept of initiating structure and consideration do have a bearing on the effective leadership. Next are University of Michigan studies. University of Michigan also undertook the study on leadership effectiveness based on behavioral characteristics about simultaneously to the Ohio State studies. The studies conclude that there are two dimensions of employee oriented and production oriented leadership behavior. The employee oriented leadership emphasizes on interpersonal relation and the concept was similar to that of consideration. Whereas production oriented leadership defined the task aspect of the work in contention and parallel lines could be drawn between initiating structure and production oriented leadership. Now we will learn about the managerial grid. Blake and Mountain conceptualized a two-dimensional graphical description of leadership style. This is often referred to as managerial grid or less commonly known as leadership grid. The leadership styles of concern for production and concern for people were placed on two axes, y and x, as dimensions. 81 different positions could be traced to leadership styles in a 9 by 9 block. The 9 by 9 style is said to be the best style of leadership in which the leader is very considerate about the people, which is also called as team style. In this, high concern is given to both production and people, thus could be said to be the optimum state. In the 9-1 style of leadership, the emphasis is towards production, that is, produce or perish, which is also termed as authority type of leadership. In 1-9 type style of leadership, the prominence is given to people. The employees are rather than the production. It is also therefore called as the laissez-faire or country club style. The 5x5 style of leadership is middle of the road or middle path is employed, wherein people and production both are given importance. This is also called as middle of the road style of leadership. The managerial grid is criticized for not providing any tangible new information as it does not clarify anything new. It can be used, however, for conceptualization of leadership styles. Let us now learn about contingency theories of leadership. The prediction of leadership success is a complex task. A leadership style giving successful results today may not be successful at future date. This thought process led to the focus on situational influences. Consequently, conditions keep on changing and so should the leadership style. 5 such contingency leadership theories are being discussed here. 1. Fiedler model. The Fiedler contingency model was developed by Fred Fiedler, which proposes that effective performance depends upon the accurate alignment between the style of leadership and the extent to which such control as required by the situation is vested on the leader. Fiedler tried to gauge 3 important aspects to it. First, the identification of the natural leadership style of the leader, that is, whether the leader is pleasant, unpleasant, efficient, inefficient, supportive, hostile, open or guarded, etc., through the least preferred co-worker questionnaire. It makes distinction between the leaders being task-oriented or relationship-oriented. It also assumed that the leadership style is basically fixed, and in order to suit the situation, either the leader or the situation needs to be changed. Secondly, the situation which needs to be defined as identified by Fiedler and which encompasses the key situational factors as leader-member relations, confidence, respect and trust of the followers towards his leader, task structure, extent to which work roles are structured, position power, extent to which a leader exhibits influence on the important tasks such as hiring, promotions, etc. There are 8 different contingency dimensions in which the leaders could identify themselves. Thirdly, matching leaders with the situations is taken up. After having identified the leader's task orientation and or relationship orientation, and also after assessing the situational contingency dimensions of the leader, the Fiedler model emphasizes on the matching of both the above aspects to maximize the leadership effectiveness. Based on this research, Fiedler concluded that task-oriented leadership style is better placed as the leaders who are task-oriented perform better in situations which are favorable and also in those situations which are unfavorable as well. Task-oriented leaders perform well in favorable and unfavorable situations. However, relationship-oriented leaders perform well in moderate control situations. Now we would understand the cognitive resource theory. Fiedler added a new dimension to an earlier work with an associate, Joe Gracia. They added that stress is an unfavorable contingency which negatively impacts the effectiveness of a leader. This piece of research is gaining popularity as the results of other researchers are drawing consonance. Cognitive resource theory can be termed as the reconceptualization of the earlier theory. It says that the stress is an enemy of rationality and that if stressed, a person is loaded with cognitive load. Hersey and Blanchard's situational theory. The propounders of situational leadership theory, Paul Hersey and Ken Blanchard, have developed a leadership model which has gained popularity in the leadership development programs. This theory focuses on the extent of followers' readiness based on which a leader selects a right leadership style. It is based on the premise that the ultimate leadership effectiveness is judged by the followers who accept or reject the same. By readiness, Hersey and Blanchard meant the degree to which individuals have the ability and willingness to achieve a task. Followers are a very important aspect of any leadership style to flourish. It ultimately zeroes down to the acceptance forwarded by the followers. Therefore, in case the followers are unwilling to cater to a particular task in hand, the leader needs to exercise clarity and specification in giving direction by being more task oriented. SLT has an intuitive appeal. However, other researchers have pointed towards methodological errors in the theory formulation, as SLT could not be replicated successfully elsewhere. Now we will learn the fourth type of theories, leader-member exchange theory. This theory is based upon the premise that the leaders tend to have favorite followers among all followers, which make the in-group. The theory advocates that the leaders establish relationship with small group of followers. These special few people are the most trusted and also enjoy the special privileges meted out by the leader. The question as to how the leader chooses that in-group is also explained in the theory. It says that based on similar attitude and personality characteristics or higher degree of competence, in-group members are chosen upon. So, the choice of selection of the in-group lies on the leader. However, such choice is dependent upon the characteristics displayed by the follower. The in-group subordinates have higher interaction with the leaders. Consequently, the leader develops trust for those selected in-group subordinates. Compatibility also develops, and this leads to a fruitful leader-member exchange. Contrary to this, in group the leader-member exchange remains formal in most of the instances, and hence the relationship continues to remain formal. The fifth theory is path-goal theory. The essence of this theory is that it is the leader who should provide his followers with requisite resources, information and support so that they achieve their goals. This theory is therefore called path-goal theory, as effective leaders make the path to achieving goals for their followers easy by reducing bottlenecks wherever required. Path-goal theory was given by Robert House. House identified the 4 leadership behaviors which the leaders employ in tandem. Leaders could even display one or all the behaviors together. The 4 leadership behaviors are: directive leader who gives specific directions of how to go about a task and what are the expectations thereof; supportive leader who shows concern for the followers; participative leader who makes a decision after due consultation with his followers; and achievement oriented leader who expects his followers and subordinates to be above par and perform with excellence. They generally set the bar high and goals challenging. The contingency which could arise for all the above type of leadership styles are: for directive leader is more effective contingent upon the fact that situation should be ambiguous and less structured rather than well laid out. For supportive leaders, the employee, when performing structured tasks, is more conducive for high employee performance and high job satisfaction than in case of unstructured workforce. Directive leadership becomes unnecessary when the followers are experienced and they possess high perceived ability. In case of achievement-oriented leadership, when the tasks are highly ambiguous, then it could lead to greater efforts and higher performance. This theory therefore postulates the concept that leadership gets ineffective if the environmental contingency factors are not in alignment with the leader or when the employee's characteristics are incongruent. Adequate testing of path goal theory is yet to be concluded. Owing to its complexity, path goal theory has shown mixed support from researchers. The validity of path goal is still not proven and hence the jury is still out. Sixth, the leader participation model. This model points towards a leadership theory which provides a set of criteria to identify and determine the form and quantum of participative decision making which needs to be employed in varied situations. This model was developed by Victor Vroom and Philip Yeton, which creates a link between leadership behavior and participation in decision making. This model incorporates a decision tree providing 7 possibilities whose relevance needs to be marked by a yes or no and 5 alternative leadership styles. Later on, possibilities or contingencies were augmented to 12. The leadership participation model has received criticism for not incorporating all the variables and also for the complexity involved. The 12 contingency variables are: number 1, importance of the decision; number 2, importance of obtaining follower commitment to the decision; number 3, whether the leader has sufficient information to make a good decision; number 4, how well structured the problem is; number 5, whether an autocratic decision would receive follower commitment; number 6, whether followers buy into the organization's goal; number 7, whether there is likely to be a conflict among followers over solution alternatives; number 8, whether followers have the necessary information to make a good decision; number 9, time constraints on the leader that may limit follower involvement; number 10, whether costs to bring geographically depressed members together is justified; 11, importance to the leader of minimizing the time it takes to make the decision; and lastly, and 12th point, importance of using participation as a tool for developing follower decision skills. Let us now understand the importance of leadership theories. After having seen in the chapter that how in a phase-wise manner trait theories were replaced by the behavioral theories and the advent of the contingency theories, though it would be wrong to state that trait theories have been replaced completely. Some of the predicaments are always based on certain traits of a leader. However, when there is a concern for improvement of the leadership effectiveness, researchers, academicians and practitioners do not talk much of traits of the leader. The sticky question of leadership effectiveness and how it could be achieved is still in the open. We have seen that each of the modern day theory and research are still being criticized for some inconsistencies in explaining the essence of leadership. So, the quest will still go on forever. The contingency theories emerged in the pretext of further quest. The researchers who are studying the importance of leadership effectiveness are constantly looking to solve what leadership actually is and what it involves is the question. Tenenbaum and Schmidt in 1958 were the first to depart from the trait theories of leadership and accepted the democratic leadership which focused on the people. They proposed a continuum of leadership where decision-making leader was at one end and worker participation enthusiast at the other extreme. Later on, as we saw, there were theories which emphasized on the behavioral aspect of leadership which could further augment the effectiveness of a leader. Theories like Managerial Grid were adjusted to be very good depiction of leadership models being followed and criticized for not giving any value additions. With the advent of contingency theories, the researchers finally agreed that there could not be one effective and universal style of leadership. Contrary to this, vivid leadership styles could be followed at varied and difficult situations. The crux of the different styles which we reviewed here were primarily of two types. One which emphasized more on the people orientation or employee orientation leadership, and the other which gives prime importance to the work and production orientation. Contingency theories signify the basis on which these styles would be utilized. Situations should be guide for employing of vivid styles of leadership by the leaders without following one style in entirety. Effectiveness in leadership can be garnered when the leader is educated of the dynamic situations. He or she is bound to face learning on what style should be utilized and what would be the opportune time for doing it must be taken care of. Leadership theories, if employed well, can be of great help for the practicing managers and for all those leaders who are at the helm of affairs in the organization. Let us now summarize what we have learned in this module. Effective leadership makes work enriching, ensures unabated contribution by subordinates, leads to effective and efficient utilization of resources, leads to better coordination, cooperation and communication amongst the employees and within the organization. The theories of leadership can be divided into trait theories, behavioral theories and contingency theories. Trait theories make a distinction between the leaders and the non-leaders. Trait theories may not predict the effectiveness of a leader. With the help of behavioral theories, the individuals could be trained to become a leader. Ohio State studies zeroed in on two dimensions: initiating structure and consideration. The University of Michigan studies conclude that there are two dimensions of employee-oriented and production-oriented leadership behavior. The managerial grid propounded by Blake and Mountain is a two-dimensional graphical description of leadership style. Situational influences gave birth to contingency theories of leadership, which are Fiedler model, cognitive resource theory, Hersey and Blanchard situational theory, leader-member exchange theory, path goal theory and leader participation model. Effectiveness in leadership can be garnered when the leader is educated of the dynamic situations he or she is bound to face. Learning on what style should be utilized and what would be the opportune time for doing it must be taken care of.